Let's treat this like it is test day. So have your pen, your paper, and your notes and your headphones. Find a quiet spot. You will hear 3 academic lecture followed by TOEFL style questions. At the end, you will have some approximate score. So drop in the comments how you did. And of course, if you're taking the TOEFL in 2025, one way to help this channel is to give this a like and subscribe. Grab your free guide. It's everything you need to pass the TOEFL in 2025. And I hope to see you on my channel sometime soon.
When most Americans imagine the origin of Thanksgiving, they picture a peaceful shared meal between the English Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people in 1621. This story is often presented as a moment of harmony and cooperation. However, historians today emphasize that this popular narrative is incomplete and, in some ways, misleading. To understand why, we need to look at the broader historical context. The Wampanoag Nation had lived in the region we now call New England for thousands of years. They maintained complex political alliances, agricultural systems, and cultural traditions long before European arrival. When English colonists settled in Plymouth in 1620, they did not enter an empty land. They entered a homeland that belonged to others. The 1621 gathering, that is often referred to as the first Thanksgiving, was not originally a holiday. It was a diplomatic event. At that time, the Wampanoag were suffering from dramatic population loss due to epidemics brought by earlier European contact. Their leader, Massasoit, chose to form an alliance with the English to strengthen the tribe's strategic position against rival groups. In other words, this meeting was shaped by political necessity, not simply celebration. Furthermore, the English colonists did not use the word Thanksgiving to describe feasting. In the early 1600s, a Thanksgiving was actually a religious day of fasting and repentance. So the idea that the 1621 meal was a Thanksgiving feast is historically inaccurate. The association of Thanksgiving with feasting was created much later, in the 19th century. This shift happened largely due to the influence of Sarah Josepha Hale, an editor and writer who spent decades campaigning to establish a national holiday of gratitude. During the Civil War, she argued that such a holiday could help unify a divided nation. President Abraham Lincoln adopted this idea in 1863, officially declaring Thanksgiving a national holiday. So the modern Thanksgiving tradition did not originate in Plymouth. It originated during a time of war as a symbolic call for national unity. When we examine Thanksgiving historically, we see a story shaped by strategic alliances, cultural misunderstanding, population loss, political motives, and later national myth-making. The holiday we recognize today is not a direct reflection of the past. It is a modern cultural creation that evolved over time. Understanding this allows us to appreciate the holiday more fully, with both gratitude and historical awareness.
When many people think of Thanksgiving, they tend to associate it primarily with the United States. However, Canada also celebrates Thanksgiving, and while the two holidays may appear similar, their origins, timing, and cultural meanings differ in important ways. To begin with, Canadian Thanksgiving is generally considered to be older in origin. One of the earliest documented events resembling Thanksgiving in Canada occurred in 1578, when the English explorer Martin Frobisher held a ceremony in what is now the province of Newfoundland. This gathering was not meant to celebrate harvest, but instead to give thanks for surviving a difficult journey across the Atlantic. This origin stands in contrast to the commonly referenced 1621 event in Plymouth Colony associated with U.S. Thanksgiving, which focused on a harvest alliance between the English settlers and the Wampanoag people. The timing of the holidays also differs. In Canada, Thanksgiving takes place on the second Monday of October, while in the United States, it is observed on the fourth Thursday of November. These dates reflect differences in climate and agricultural cycles. The harvest season ends earlier in Canada due to colder weather, so the holiday occurs earlier in the year. In the United States, the later date aligns more closely with historical proclamations made during the 19th century, particularly when Abraham Lincoln declared Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1863. Culturally, both holidays emphasize family gatherings and expressions of gratitude. However, in Canada, Thanksgiving tends to be less heavily tied to national identity. In the United States, the holiday is often connected to a narrative about the nation's historical origins, even though that story is simplified and sometimes inaccurate. In Canada, the holiday carries fewer symbolic associations with founding myth and is viewed more as a seasonal celebration tied to the end of harvest. In summary, while Canadian and American Thanksgiving share certain features, such as food traditions and time spent with family, they evolve from different historical circumstances, follow different seasonal rhythms, and carry different cultural meanings. Understanding these distinctions highlights how holidays can appear similar on the surface while reflecting very different national experiences.
In recent years, psychologists and neuroscientists have taken a growing interest in the emotion of gratitude. While many cultures include rituals that encourage people to give thanks, scientific research shows that gratitude is not merely a polite social behavior. It has measurable effects on the brain, the body, and interpersonal relationships. To begin, studies in neuroscience demonstrate that gratitude activates several regions of the brain associated with emotional regulation and reward, including the prefrontal cortex and the ventral striatum. These areas are also linked to the release of neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin, which contribute to feelings of well-being. In other words, expressing gratitude can produce a physiological response similar to what occurs when people experience joy or meaningful social connection. Gratitude also plays a role in strengthening social bonds. When someone expresses appreciation, it signals to others that their actions are seen and valued. Researchers refer to this as pro-social reinforcement. Over time, these repeated exchanges build trust and cooperation within groups. This may explain why many societies include gratitude rituals during community gatherings, religious ceremonies, and seasonal celebrations. Finally, gratitude has been linked to long-term mental health benefits. Clinical studies suggest that individuals who regularly reflect on what they are thankful for often report lower levels of stress and depression. Some experiments even show improvements in sleep quality and physical health. One explanation is that gratitude helps shift attention away from what is lacking and toward what is present and meaningful. In summary, gratitude is not just a cultural tradition or a holiday theme. It represents a psychological process with real biological and social importance. By fostering emotional regulation, reinforcing positive relationships, and improving overall well-being, gratitude plays a central role in human flourishing.